The Toronto Argos bring their Grey Cup victory celebrations back home as fans rally behind their team after that stunning victory against Winnipeg.
And we're following a developing situation in Barrie. This is where police are responding to reports of an active shooter. More on the investigation and evacuation coming up.
And we are getting a closer look at this year's most frequently stolen vehicles in Ontario as police continue to tackle auto theft crises across the province.
This is Live at 5. Good evening. I'm Bakari Savage.
And I'm Lena Latafat. Thank you for joining us here on Live at 5. The game is long over, but the celebrations continue for the Toronto Argos. The team celebrated their Grey Cup victory with their fans downtown today.
And for more on the championship bash, let's go live to CP24's Andrew Brennan, who's at Maple Leaf Square. Andrew, you kind of became part of the celebration yourself.
I'm not saying I did. I'm not saying I didn't either. However, Bakari, I'm going to think actually the celebrating is still going because, as you were mentioning earlier on in the afternoon, we were just chilling outside at what Lena has affectionately called, and we are going to christen Argos Square for the day. And just a parade of players going by, one after another, after another, after another. And then they're just carrying the Grey Cup on their shoulders willy-nilly in the middle of the street. No security, no nothing. But the celebrations, you can see some of it now. Hoopla does not describe this. Emphaticness does not describe this. I'm running out of words from my brain's thesaurus to describe this. You know, the comparison you can draw with, say, something like the Raptors when they won in 2019, this was talked about by the coaches and the head of MLSE on stage, that the CFL, as much as you're giving a product out there that is so powerful to the fans, they always want to hope that they can grow from moments like this, because it's in their mind, this is something that should be celebrated by all of Canada. As, of course, you can hear in the background the sound of the national anthem there. The story of the CFL Grey Cup, the 111th running of the championship here in Canada, was truly that of Nick Arbuckle. And you're going to hear from the hero of the game now.
It was kind of a theme for the entire team this year, and that was belief, the word belief. I think for me, it started with my wife and believing that there was still football left in me and I could still keep playing, and believing in my ability to keep sacrificing more than I think anybody will ever really know, for me to have the opportunity to keep working and keep trying and be able to still just be around for this opportunity when it came.
It's been aptly noted, the heart of a champion is not just about what you've won or what you've done. It's an attitude. It's a way of life. It's how you live and what you stand for. It's the foundation for your whole life in existence. The heart of a champion is not just something you have, it's something you are. Guys, I want to thank you so much for the contribution that you've made, and this show has to go on, but I do want you to know that today we found that sweet spot. So with me one more time, I say sweet, you say spot. Sweet!
Oh yes, they were very, very happy today and will be for weeks to come and also into next season, hoping to get 3 and 4 years then. And just what you heard from Arbuckle there, he was someone who was not expected to play in this game, didn't even know if he was going to be back in football this season, as you heard, but he ultimately won everything, being our most valuable player. You heard him say there, Lena, Bakari, something that almost sounds like something from our childhoods. To quote the great Ziggy Marley from the theme song to Arthur, believe in yourself. That's the place to start. Back to you both.
Hey, Andrew, what about the cameos that you had? There's no mention of that.
Well, that's because, you know, I mean, I was just not entirely sure what to do, because they're just it's one after another, and you know, you could see how excited they were, and all the power to them. This is their day.
It's a celebration.
And you know what? I'll just mention very quickly.
Yeah.
They're probably still inside celebrating.
Okay.
And they should.
The party continues. Andrew Brennan reporting live. Thanks so much for this, Andrew. Turning to a developing story that we are following for you tonight in Barrie, police are responding to reports of an active shooter inside an RV in that city's north end.
Police have evacuated the area around Bayfield Street and Heather Street. Officials told CTV News that at least one gunshot was fired. Tactical vehicles rammed a white camper located in a parking lot. Police say that the suspect is barricaded inside. Workers at nearby businesses say that the RV's been in the parking lot for at least a month.
12 o'clock, I got here, and there was like a trailer parked there for about a month now, and I guess all we heard was a smoke grenade and a gunshot, and then next thing you know, there was like heavy police presence, and then we all got evacuated, the entire strip. It's scary, super scary.
Crisis negotiators have been called to the scene, and officials say contact has been made with the person in the vehicle. No injuries have been reported. Stay with us for the latest on this developing story out of Barrie tonight.
Peele Region says it has made major strides in reducing 911 call wait times.
And for the latest on this story and the numbers, let's bring in CP24's Steve Ryan, who's standing by in Peele Region for us tonight. Steve, this comes after Peele police said a number of people were abusing the system.
Yeah, they were abusing the system, and there was no suggestion that it was being done with any sort of maliciousness. It was being done because people just didn't know when to report through 911 or when to call through the non-emergency line. So the police started an initiative last year with the goal of reducing the wait time on 911, and they certainly succeeded. Time waiting on 911 was upwards of 90 seconds, and it's now been reduced to 14 seconds. And that was done through a lot of terrific work by Peele Regional Police and their command officers, and they did it through better technology, more resources, and an education campaign. The chief said that they spent a year speaking into communities. They had posters plastered all over bus stops, and those posters described when to call 911 and when to use the non-emergency number, and it was effective. 14 seconds is a tremendous decrease in the amount of time that a caller waits on the line to get a response from the call taker, as opposed to the 90 seconds. So we heard today from Mayor Patrick Brown. He was here in Peele Region to participate in this press conference. He, as well, was instrumental in this project being a success. He's a tremendous advocate for community safety, and he's a big supporter of his police, and he provided them with the proper resources that they needed to get this done. And we heard from Peele's chief of police, as well. So here's more from those two men. Let's have a listen.
It just goes to show you that with some public education and telling people when to use 911 and when not to, as well as adding some technology and human resources, you can turn the dial down on some of the pressures. But all of it means that it can't happen overnight. But we did spend a lot of time telling the public about the problems here in Peele. I think it was the right time to tell them the outcome of 1 year's worth of work.
Home invasion that was horrifying in Brampton, where I heard about residents who were on a long wait time on 911 while there was invaders in their home. And unfortunately, that wasn't an anomaly. There was a number of incidents like that. And so I went to the chief and I say, how do we fix this? In a country as prosperous as Canada, we need a 911 system that works. And so it's really been a three-pronged approach: education, staffing, and new technology that's allowed us to change the ground here in Peele Region. A 78% reduction is extraordinary, and 14 seconds average wait time compared to where it was before, just such a relief.
This was a complete team effort. You've got political leadership and support, you've got senior command with a vision, and you've got buy-in from the uniforms and the civilian members, and all three of those combined resulted in this tremendous result today, which was a 14-second wait time as opposed to 90 seconds. Big win for Peele Regional residents out here.
Yeah,
so back to you guys.
Significant strides in Peele Region. CP24's crime analyst Steve Ryan. Steve, thank you. Well, Ontario's Solicitor General is pressing the federal government for justice reform. This is following yesterday's serious crash at Bathurst and Wilson, which police say involved a stolen vehicle.
Almost every single gun that's used in an illegal activity in Ontario traces itself back to the other side of the border. So point one is, meet me at the border, see for yourself, and take measures to implement a much stronger border inspection. That's the first thing. And the second thing, to curb auto theft, and again, I've spoken about it in recent days, I traveled to the Port of Montreal. I was there to see for myself that there's 2 sets of protocols for inspection of inbound and outbound cargo. Inbound cargo is subject to very detailed inspection. Outbound cargo is not.
Police continue to look for a black SUV in connection with yesterday's crash that left 2 people critically injured. The Toronto Police Association says 2 of the people who were in that stolen vehicle were out on bail, including one for a violent robbery.
And the City of Toronto has put together a plan to help keep homeless shelters safe for staff and the people who use them. And the city says the Shelter Safety Action Plan includes 14 measures that will be implemented over the next 3 years. Those measures include expanding access to health care, mental health supports, crisis intervention, and enhanced harm reduction services. It also includes new tools that will track and notify staff of incidents of anti-black racism. And the plan will be presented to the Economic and Community Development Committee next Tuesday and to Toronto City Council in December for approval.
It is 5:11, 8 degrees. You're watching Live at 5.
And coming up, a new list is outlining the most frequently stolen vehicles in Ontario. We're going to have more on the most popular options for car thieves in the province and advice for drivers in the wake of an auto theft crisis. A new report is shedding light on what the most stolen vehicles in the province are.
And for all the details, let's go live to CP24's Melissa Duggan. Melissa.
So drum roll, please, maybe a bit of an unpleasant drum roll, but the vehicle that's topping the list of most stolen vehicles in this latest list just out today is the Lexus RX. So this list is coming from a insurance fraud protection group. It's called Équité Association, and every year it is out with this list, just giving us an idea of which vehicles thieves are targeting. Number 2 on the list is the Toyota Highlander, particularly the 2022 model. Well, that is number 2 on the list here in Ontario. When you look at Canada-wide, that's actually number 1. And the group behind this listing says that that vehicle is targeted for a couple of reasons. It is serviceable globally, and it also has a high resale value. As for number 3 on the list, it is the 2022 Dodge Ram 1500 series. And the vast majority of the vehicles on this list, by the way, are SUVs and pickup trucks. There is one car, though. That's the Honda Civic, particularly the 2019 edition. That's ranking as number 9. So we have been seeing throughout the last few years a real bump in the number of vehicles stolen across Canada. According to this group, between 2021 and 2023, auto theft has increased by more than 48% in Ontario. We did reach out to Toronto Police for some of their latest numbers. I'm going to get to that in just a second. But first, I want to share more. This is what we're hearing from the group Équité Association about this list. Have a listen.
Even if your vehicle is not on the list, all vehicles are capable of being stolen, so everybody should take the same precautions. But park in a garage if you have one. If you don't, park in a well-lit area. Use aftermarket immobilizer that protects against modern methods of theft. Use an onboard diagnostic port lock. Use a steering wheel lock. Use a tracking service. You don't have to do them all, but anything that you can do to make your vehicle less of a target and have the criminal need more time to defeat whatever you use will serve you well.
Now, as I mentioned, we did reach out to Toronto Police, asking them for some feedback. What are they seeing right now when it comes to auto thefts in our city? They're actually saying, and this may come as a surprise to you, that they're seeing a notable decrease in the number of vehicle thefts in the city. 21% it has dropped in 2024 compared to the same period last year. They're also saying that there are a variety of reasons for this. It's so hard to pinpoint exactly what may be leading to this drop in numbers. It could have something to do with stepped up law enforcement really targeting auto thefts, and also, car owners just taking more steps in terms of prevention to keep their vehicles from being stolen. And certainly, as we just heard there from Équité Association, there are a lot of things you could do to hopefully keep those thieves at bay. Back to you.
Okay, CP24's Melissa Duggan with not so good lists. Yeah. Thanks, Melissa. Well, there's still no end in sight to the strike at Canada Post. It's disrupted mail and parcel deliveries all across the country.
Yeah, postal workers walked off the job last week amid an impasse in contract talks. A special mediator has not been able to broker a deal between the union and Crown Corporation just yet. The union says it's fighting for fair wages and safer working conditions, but both sides are said to remain far apart at the bargaining table.
And thousands of CN railway workers have begun holding strike votes. They include technicians, mechanics, as well as clerical staff. The union says that the vote will help clarify where members stand in terms of ongoing negotiations with the company. It's calling on CN to address issues like job security, compensation, and working conditions.
Well, Canada's inflation rate inched up last month. Stats Canada's latest consumer price index report shows the annual inflation rate hit 2% in October, up from 1.6% in September. Excluding gasoline, inflation rose 2.2%, matching the rate in August and September. Some experts say the news could dissuade the Bank of Canada from cutting rates at next month's announcement. We'll have to watch that very closely.
Right now it's 5:17, 8 degrees, feeling more like 5 above zero outside. This is Live at 5.
Austin Matthews has traveled to Europe as he undergoes treatment for an injury, keeping the star forward out of the lineup. We're going to tell you more about this with our Phil Perkins. Stay with us.
And the Maple Leafs revealed today that superstar Austin Matthews is in Germany to get treatment for an injury that sidelined him for more than 2 weeks.
Yeah, and for the latest on the Leafs captain status, let's bring in CP24's Phil Perkins tonight. Phil, do we know anything else about his injury?
No, we know nothing. It's an undisclosed upper body injury. It was supposed to be day to day. We thought, he'd be showing up at some point, but he hasn't skated since early November. He is going to miss 7 straight games when the Leafs host the Vegas Golden Knights on Wednesday. They announced that on Monday. We thought everything was hunky-dory. He's going to be all right. But now we're hearing from General Manager Brad Treliving that he has flown across the pond to a specialist in Munich, Germany. Apparently, we are hearing from some of our TSN reporters that this is a clinic that has been sought after by other athletes in other sports. In the past, we know Kobe Bryant went out to Germany to get some work done, the late, great Kobe Bryant. Christian McCaffrey from the San Francisco 49ers had duo Achilles tendinitis in both his Achilles. He went to Germany as well. So what is Austin Matthews going for specifically? Apparently, it's additional treatment. Here is Brad Treliving speaking to the reporters.
It's not alarming. It was something we've been discussing, knowing that he's going to be getting this week. But we're hopeful that once we get through the week here, he'll be back up and skating, and his return to play would be after that.
And so luckily, Treliving also saying that this is not requiring any surgery. It's just an additional treatment. There's a bit of a gap in some of the games here, so they're letting Austin do his thing. Very unlikely that he plays also on the weekend against the new Utah Hockey Club. Coach Craig Berube says that he's not worried at all. So if they're not worried, we shouldn't be worried. But we also shouldn't be that concerned because, honestly, the Leafs have been playing quite well without Austin Matthews. They are 5-1 thus far. The rest of the core four has been stepping up. Mitch Marner and John Tavares both scoring 4 goals in the last 6 games. Willie Nylander, 3 goals. And so, yeah, they're letting their $53 million man just kind of take his time. It's still somewhat early in the season. And so just get healthy, come back, and hit the ice running or skating. Back to you.
Yeah, speedy recovery. CP24's Phil Perkins. Thanks a lot, Phil. No Well, Canada's men's soccer team takes on Suriname tonight at BMO Field in the second leg of their Nations League quarterfinals.
Canada leads 1-0 after the first leg. The winner advances to the Nations League finals in March and qualifies for next year's CONCACAF Gold Cup. The winner of tonight's quarterfinal will take on the U.S. or Jamaica in the semis.
Okay, it's 5:22, 8 degrees. This is Live at 5.
The next round of the Canada Child Benefit payments should be made tomorrow, but how much do those extra funds actually cover? More on the financial crunch facing families next.
Eligible families are set to receive their next Canada Child Benefit payments tomorrow, but a new report suggests that many parents need more support to cover their needs than what they're actually getting.
Yeah, for the numbers and the details, we're going to turn to Willful founder and CEO Aaron Barrie. Aaron, thanks so much for joining us. Good to have you on. You're a mother of two yourself, and you've sort of talked about what it's like to raise a family in the midst of this cost of living crisis. You and your team decided to look at how much additional income Canadian parents really need to meet their families' day-to-day expenses. What did you find?
Well, we did a report looking at how Canadian families are faring in the current economic climate. No surprise, many of us are in a worse financial position than we were on January 1st because of rising interest rates. And as we saw today, inflation continuing to be a challenge. We found that Canadians across the board would need about $900 a month in extra income just to be able to kind of meet their day-to-day financial demands. But that's higher for parents. You know, $900 and above, especially if your children are teenagers, with all the costs and extracurriculars that come with that. I know for me, I have two kids in daycare. They eat a lot of raspberries, which are very expensive. So I certainly see that personally, and it really reflects the finding of this survey that we put out at Willful.
Yeah, so Aaron, I also want to ask you something. The full report is titled The Great Delay. Now, part of that, you talk about debt and savings. Emergency funds. How are you supposed to have an emergency fund if you can't make the money, like you can't make ends meet?
Yeah.
Well, that's exactly it. That's the challenge. What we found is that when we ask Canadians, what are the top 3 things on your to-do list? Number 1, pay off debt, no surprise. Number 2, save for the future. Number 3, get or update a will. But those same people said about 3/4 of people have had to put off financial to-dos because of the current economic climate. So what it really shows is that we're putting off or sacrificing our future financial health just to keep our heads above water. And while interest rates are dropping, we don't feel that relief day to day yet. I mean, maybe we will in a few months, but as of right now, those things that are on the to-do list, emergency funds, powers of attorney, will, all of the kind of the stuff that you think about when you're thinking about the future, that's just getting pushed off.
Okay, Willful founder and CEO Aaron Barrie, we want to thank you for your time and insights tonight. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Aaron.
Thanks so much for having me.
It's 5:27, 8 degrees. This is Live at 5.
We are following a developing situation in Barrie tonight where some residents have been evacuated after reports of an active shooter. More details live from the scene coming up next.
We're following a developing situation in Barrie. This is where police are responding to reports of an active shooter. More on the investigation and evacuation coming up.
Peele Region says it's making progress when it comes to reducing wait times for residents calling 911. Crime analyst Steve Ryan will break down why in moments.
And the Toronto Argos bring their Grey Cup victory celebrations back home as fans rally behind their team after that incredible win against Winnipeg.
Now, what a party. We'll tell you all about it. You're watching Live at 5. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. I'm Lena Ladafat.
And I'm Bakari Savage. Peele Region says that it has made major strides in reducing 911 call wait times.
For all the details, let's go live to CP24's Steve Ryan, who is in Peele Region for us this evening. Steve.
Yeah, Lena, Peele Police started an initiative last year, and the goal was to reduce the wait times for people calling 911. The average time was just over 90 seconds, so they set out to reduce that drastically, and they did that with a 3-pronged approach. Better technology, more resources, and a big educational campaign. The chief said today that they spent this last year educating members of the public as to when it was appropriate to use 911 and when people who needed to call the police would use the non-emergency number. In fact, the chief said today that even driving into work, he saw signs posted near bus stops advising people as to, again, when to call 911 and when to use the non-emergency number. So this huge education campaign has paid off because they've seen their wait times for 911 callers now be reduced to 14 seconds. And most of most of that time when the lines were clogged up, it wasn't because people were being malicious. It was because people just didn't know. So they would be calling 911 for things that certainly weren't emergency-esque. And by the time the call taker got to that call to direct it to the non-emergency line, others in the queue were waiting. So it's a huge stride for the police. Big safety improvements for the residents here of Peele region as well, as that wait time has now been reduced to just a mere 14 seconds. At a press conference today, we heard from the chief of police and we heard from Patrick Mayor Brown, who was instrumental as well in making this happen by giving the support and the resources that the chief and his officers needed to accomplish this incredible goal. And here's what both men said. Let's have a listen.
The public awareness campaign on misuse calls. We heard stories about people calling for a pizza or a cricket game. We've seen a massive decline in those misuse calls. But what is really behind this success story is the fact that Chief Nish and his team have always said we're going to be on the leading edge of technology. And credit to Deputy Chief O'Dwyer. I continue to say when it comes to police technology, I think he's the smartest mind in the country.
Waiting on hold on 911 by any means is not acceptable, but to see us down from over 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes average time to now to 14 seconds is quite a remarkable change here. And it would not have been possible without the education campaigns. Mayor's right. We talked about somebody calling 911 to say that their Tim Hortons coffee was cold or that there was a cat stuck in the window. Meanwhile, people are backed up in the queue, suffering from real emergencies in our community that needed to get to us.
So political leadership, providing the proper resources. You've got a senior police command who've got this incredible vision, and you've got dedicated men and women in uniform and civilians who bought into that concept, and this is the result. A 14-second time now to wait for your 911 call to be answered, and it certainly is a far cry from the 90 seconds. Send back to you guys.
Yeah, that's going to help a lot of people who actually need the service. Steve Ryan reporting live in Peele tonight. Thank you, Steve. And we're following a developing story out of Barrie this evening where an active shooter investigation is underway in that city's north end.
And for this, we turn to CTV's John Musselman, who is live with the latest. John, what's going on? There's also an evacuation?
Well, the situation is behind a building on Bayfield Street. Police were called here just after noon. We'll zoom in and show you. There was reports of a suspect inside a recreational vehicle in behind the bank in the parking lot area, and there was reports of a possible weapon involved. We did look at some video of the recreational vehicle. There were bullet holes in the windshield. So that brought heavy police presence from the tactical unit here in Barrie, and also crisis negotiators. They tried to reach out to the person who's inside that RV to try to defuse the situation. We were able to speak to a woman who works at the Chuck's Roadhouse right next door. This is what she was able to tell us.
12 o'clock, I got here, and there was like a trailer parked there for about a month now, and I guess all we heard was a smoke grenade and a gunshot, and then next thing you know, there was like heavy police presence, and then we all got evacuated, the entire strip. It's scary, super scary.
And you're right, a number of businesses were evacuated as a precaution, including a number of schools, but that was lifted at about 3 o'clock. It seems to be isolated now to the parking area behind the bank. So far, no injuries reported. Live in Barrie, I'm John Musselman. I'll send it back to you.
All right, John, thanks so much for this. And of course, we'll have updates throughout the evening on that situation. Turning to some other stories we're following for you. Ontario's Solicitor General is pressing the federal government for justice reform following yesterday's serious crash at Bathurst and Wilson, which police say involved a stolen vehicle.
3 weeks ago, we called on the federal government that they have to enact meaningful bail reform law changes now. What we are doing here in Ontario is we will continue to provide the grants and supports, the tone and the expectation, and the legislation and the regulations that police services need to do their jobs.
Well, police continue to look for a black SUV in connection with yesterday's crash that left 2 people critically injured. The Toronto Police Association says that 2 of the people who were in the stolen vehicle, they were out on bail, including one for a violent robbery.
A new report is shedding light on what the most stolen vehicles in the province are.
And for the details, let's go live to CP24's Melissa Duggan. So, Melissa, SUVs, trucks, and a car?
Yeah, so SUVs, trucks, they are definitely ranking higher on this list. And it's a ranking that comes out every year. But you can imagine there might have been a few years ago, you might see this pop up in the news and maybe shrug at it, or maybe just, keep it in the back of your mind if you're going to make some auto purchase decisions in the near future. But these sorts of lists get a lot more attention because we have been seeing that spike in auto thefts here in the GTA and across Ontario and across Canada, too. So here in Ontario, according to Équité Group, that is an insurance fraud protection group, they say that the #1 stolen vehicle topping their list this year is the Lexus RX, the 2022 model in particular. #2 on this list is also from 2022. It's the Toyota Highlander. And coming in at #3 is the 2022 Dodge Ram 1500 series. And you mentioned a car there, Bakari. The only car that's actually making the top 10 list is the 2019 model of a Honda Civic. But other than that, we're just seeing these SUVs, these trucks on the list that just seems to have more appeal to car thieves. We did reach out to Toronto Police, too, just to see if they had any feedback about this list, and they gave us a number that actually might come as a bit of a surprise to you. And they say so far this year in 2024, they've seen a decrease of 21% in auto thefts compared to the same time period next year. But this group, Équité Association, says this is still a major problem, and certainly the numbers here in Toronto higher than anyone wants to see. Have a listen.
It really went to a crisis mode just after the pandemic, where organized crime group really entered the space. It's a high reward, low risk for them. This is the first year in the last 3 years where we've seen a slight decline. Our numbers are still extremely high. We had not got out of the crisis. We're still very much in it.
Now, I mentioned the Toyota Highlander, the 2022 model, being the #2 on the list in Ontario of stolen vehicles. But across Canada, that's actually #1. And this group, Équité Association, gives a couple of reasons why that might be a factor. One is a high resale value. The other reason they're saying is that it is serviceable globally. So two things that thieves may keep in mind. Back to you.
All right, Melissa Duggan standing by with some important information tonight. Thanks so much, Melissa. Well, winter is just around the corner, and police are reminding drivers to be prepared.
Okay, it hasn't happened yet, but snow could start falling any day now, making driving around the city a bit more of a challenge. Experts recommend putting winter tires on your car, keeping your speed down, and making sure that you have emergency supplies in your vehicle.
Not only do we have to change the way we drive, but we have to change everything that we're thinking about before we get on the road. We have to be prepared. That means looking at the weather the night before, preparing for your trip, because weather conditions can change. We've had it pretty good so far. Our fall has been really, really warm, but the winter season is upon us. It is coming, and eventually it will be here. We have to be ready for it.
I often do get the question, why winter tires? Why not all seasons that I have, on my vehicle all year round? Winter tires are constructed a little bit differently. They're made from some different rubbers that are meant to stay pliable at the cold winter temperatures. And they're also, the tread patterns are designed a little bit differently so as to shed the debris that you expect to see on the roadways in the wintertime, the salt and the sand and the ice and snow. So they are designed to give a little bit better contact between the tire and the roadway.
And Nadia Matos with CAA joined us with tips on being as prepared as possible.
It comes down to battery health. I think that's what we see a lot in the winter months is will your battery make it through the winter months? And if you hear some clicking or grinding noises or cranking when you're turning on your vehicle, then that's a good indication that it won't start. The average car battery only lasts about 3 to 5 years because of all the extra demands that we're putting on with the navigation systems and the TVs and stuff like that. So really important to check the health of your battery.
Experts also recommend not using cruise control in winter conditions and practice emergency braking so that you understand how your vehicle reacts when roads are slippery.
5:41, 8 degrees. You're watching Live at 5.
And coming up, the Grey Cup festivities make their way back to Toronto as the Argos celebrate their win with fans right here at home. We have all of today's excitement.
Ladies and gentlemen, can we get the players to stand back, take their positions?
So the game's over, but the celebrations, they are still going for the Toronto Argos. The team celebrated their Grey Cup win with fans downtown today.
And for more on the championship bash, let's go live to CP24's Andrew Brennan at Maple Leaf Square. You had a chance to celebrate with some of the players today, Andrew. You look like you were having a lot of fun.
I could not believe it, simply because me and our dear friend Tristan, our camera guy, so we just set up trying to escape the rain, and we were underneath the awning, and they're all leaving from their private celebration after the public one, and one after another, just like, yep, hi, yep, hi, yep, hi. And then I think one of their conditioning coaches just like showed up right beside me and decided to have a proclamation about how wonderful the team is. And you know what? I think it spoke for itself. However, let's show some of the footage from the actual celebration here. So let's go through a few things. One, I was almost a half a kilometer away grabbing lunch, and the confetti that was raining down here, there was so much of it, and the wind was so much, it blew all the way basically to the other side of the Rogers Center. And we had people popping bottles on stage, and also throwing some anyway, moral of the story is there was some smashed glass as well, but a lot of kids that were the kids of the players were able to hoist the cup, and those got the largest cheers. So we've heard already from the hero of the game, that was Nick Arbuckle. He threw for over 250 yards. He was the second string quarterback that came in clutch in the moment when he needed to be there. But there's also so many other stories to talk about here, what the fans are feeling, and also what this signifies for next season. Here you're going to hear from the coach as well.
There was a lot of times where I I watched it, but I wanted to go to another room because it was just so intense. And but you know what? My wife Catherine and I, we sat through, we watched the whole thing, start to finish. It was just absolutely amazing.
We may be small, but we're loud, and I'm sure as the years go on, we're going to get bigger. You know, he introduced us to the younger crowd now. You know, the kids.
I've never seen a more selfless group of men than the guys behind me, and love watching them go to work and enjoy each other, but they earned it. They got it done. So proud of these guys, and I really love them.
So just as I send it back inside, one thing that Mike Pinball Clemens was saying, as the most prolific player to ever put on the double blue, he talked about, when I asked him, could this be the start of a dynasty? You have 3 cups, or you have 3 Grey Cups in 4 seasons. You almost got there the 4th time. What does that mean? He said, well, when you look at what this team has done in terms of the hope that they've provided the fans and each other, they're thinking not about making a dynasty, they're thinking about next season, and they're also thinking about how they can excite more and more Canadians and Torontonians and people in big markets to come out and watch some Canadian football. What do you guys think?
Well, also, Andrew,
that's great.
I do want to bring this up. You know, earlier when you had a chance to talk with Mr. Clemens, he said that they're building something really strong.
Yeah, and let's not deny that. Like, I know you were joking that I was a good luck charm because I just said, well, they haven't lost in the finals since I was born in '91. But when you think about what this team is doing in terms of how it continuously gets, it shows up at the right moment. Let's just ignore last season for a second. But they show up at the right moments. They deliver to the fans who are hardcore and die-hard fans, and they're constantly trying to get better. So, you know, that's a signifier of some resiliency for sure.
Totally. And I love that they're celebrating this victory, but already looking ahead to the next victory, as you noted with Pinball Clemens tonight. Andrew Brennan reporting live for us. Thanks so much for this, Andrew. Well, let's stay in Maple Leaf Square for a little bit, because the Maple Leafs revealed today that superstar Austin Matthews is in Germany now to get treatment for an injury that sidelined him for more than 2 weeks.
And for the latest on the Leafs captain status, let's bring in CP24's Phil Perkins. Okay, Phil, what more do we know about this injury?
Not much, Bakari and Lena. We were told that this is an undisclosed upper body injury. That's kind of the way the NHL reports injuries, is the upper body or lower body. They might say a concussion, but in this case, it's an undisclosed upper body injury for the $54 million man, the new captain for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and Austin Matthews. We were told this is day-to-day. This is now going to be 7 straight games he's going to be missing, as the Maple Leafs are hosting the Vegas Golden Knights on Wednesday. We understand he could also miss the game this weekend against the Utah Hockey Club. We heard from general manager Brad Treliving letting reporters know that he went across the pond to Munich, Germany, to a clinic to get additional treatment. But he says he's not worried. This doesn't come out of nowhere. He's been there before, as in Austin Matthews. The team doctor accompanied him there. And most importantly, there is no surgery involved here. Here's the GM.
So everything's been actually going quite well. We're just trying to use the days that we've got here with less games being played to just try to get this behind us.
So addition to that, to Brad Treliving, what he said, no setbacks here. So it's not like Austin Matthews' progress, for whatever this injury was, got worse, and he had to go to Germany, a place where for some reason multiple athletes do go. The late and great Kobe Bryant went there to help him heal. Christian McCaffrey, just this year with the San Francisco 49ers, just spent some time in Germany. He had both Achilles had tendinitis, so he had some dealings there. We were supposed to speak to a sports medicine specialist and ask him why they go to Germany. She said mainly via email that a lot of this has to do with regulations that are in place here in North America, bit of a loophole over in Europe, specifically in Germany, where they can get some things done to help speed up the healing process. But again, don't know what the injury is. We just want him to come back. But in the meantime, the Leafs 5-1 since Austin Matthews has been sidelined. Back to you.
So they've been doing well, and obviously Matthews has to focus on his health. That's got to be a priority.
Yeah.
5:50, 8 degrees. Phil, thanks so much for this. You're watching Live at 5.
And coming up, a cargo jet skids off the runway in Vancouver. More on the investigation and a potential impact over the coming days. That's next. The Ford government is investing more than $32 million to ensure first responders have access to proper mental health supports.
The Mental Health Supports for Public Safety Personnel program will include a website with mental health resources, a leadership support network, improved training for leaders, and recommended mental health practices for organizations. There will also be a new strategy implemented designed to remove potentially harmful stigmas around asking for help.
The men and women of our fire, police, paramedic, corrections, all do incredible things, putting their personal safety at risk, but their mental health and their mental well-being on the line is something that we need to look at and ensure that we are supporting. And as much as we'd like to be able to think of first responders as superheroes, and many of you are superheroes, that job is incredibly important, but there's a heavy toll and a price to pay. The reality is that you're human beings like all of us, and mental health is something that impacts absolutely everyone.
Well, the province says that the program's initiatives and a new anti-stigma strategy that's going to roll out in phases. A call for applications, inviting organizations to apply for funding under the grant that'll be rolled out early next year.
Well, a cargo jet skidded off the runway at Vancouver Airport this morning.
The 3 crew members on board, they were not hurt. They were able to get off the plane safely. The cargo jet Boeing 767-300, operated by Prime Air, it overran the north runway. That's when it landed around 1:45 in the morning, according to the airport. The Transportation Safety Board has been called in to investigate. The north runway is still closed, which is impacting travel times, and passengers are being told to check the latest schedules.
It is 5:55, 8 degrees now. You're watching Live at 5.
The guitar once owned by Gordon Lightfoot has been sold at auction. We'll have more on how much it went for and where it's going to end up after the break.
6,000 tons more than the Edmund Fitzgerald.
Well, Gordon Lightfoot's treasured Sundown guitar will remain in Canadian hands this after it sold at auction over the weekend.
The legends are in the jump on down, the big big orchid shaking.
The legendary singer-songwriter's 1967 Gibson Sunburst acoustic guitar sold for nearly $500,000 to a group of Canadian collectors. Lightfoot's Gibson was one of his favorites on stage and he used to compose the record The Edmund Fitzgerald and If You Could Read My Mind. Dozens of Lightfoot's personal belongings were auctioned off at the event, including photographs, outfits, and some of his highest awards.
Good to know that that iconic guitar is staying in the country. You're watching Toronto's breaking news, CP24.
Thank you for watching. CTV News at 6 is next.